Hello, can you guys hear me? Let me get this up. I'm Zachary Thomas, and this is Bo.
Hi, everybody.
Our topic was opioid addiction, and we decided to make a little news video for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And if not, don't tell me. Just kidding. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Tom Thomas.
And I'm Bowman Boyer, and this is what's happening in your city tonight.
Throughout history, drugs have been a major problem and subject of countless political debates. And more recently, the issue has been the prevalence of opioids in our region, specifically in Buncombe County.
National surveys have shown that in 2015 there were over 33,000 opioid overdoses in the United States, and from 1980 to 2005, prison population of individuals incarcerated for drug offenses has increased tenfold. According to the Asheville-Buncombe Drug Commission, out of North Carolina's 100 counties, Buncombe County is ranked 20th regarding the number of people who sought aid at the emergency department for substance abuse-related issues. The blame for these grim statistics on opioid overdoses have fallen upon the pharmaceutical companies, with more than 100 lawsuits from cities and states alike being directed at the corporations responsible for the production and distribution of prescription painkillers.
So, what has led our society to this downhill slide into drug addiction? Ethan Nadelman, the founder and CEO of the Drug Policy Alliance, said in a recent TED Talk that virtually every society has ingested psychoactive substances to deal with pain, increase our energy, socialize, and even commune with God. Our desire to alter our consciousness may be as fundamental as our desires for food, companionship, and sex. So, what has been done to combat drug addiction in the past? In 1961, 1971, and 1988, the United Nations held conventions to discuss the criminalization of illicit drugs and claimed that addiction to drugs constitutes a serious evil for the individuals and is fraught with social and economic danger to mankind, and that countries should be conscious of their duties to prevent and combat this evil. Americans took this declaration to heart, and on June 17, 1971, Richard Nixon announced that drug abuse was America's public enemy #1. And officially launched the war on drugs. The war on drugs has led to a significant increase in funding for drug control agencies and a huge push for drug laws concerning criminal penalties for illicit drugs. This continued into the 80s when Reagan and his administration launched a renewed campaign to combat the proliferation of crack cocaine. The war on drugs continues to be America's main method to deal with issues of drug abuse. But how does the war on drugs combat legal substances? The short and sweet answer is that it can't. Despite the fact that opioid addiction is widely recognized as a crisis in our communities, prescription painkillers continue to be a major problem, and this is largely due to the lack of laws regarding regulation. This, in turn, leaves medical professionals vulnerable to the influence of large pharmaceutical companies.
This lack of regulations and ethical rules can be seen in an exclusive interview from the Citizen Times with Dr. Blake Fagan. Dr. Fagan illustrates how the medical community had been led to believe that what they were prescribing wouldn't have the effects that are seen today, which led to a mentality of overprescribing for acute pain. From the 1980s to the early 2000s, pharmaceutical companies engaged in an almost marketing campaign to convince medical professionals that what they were prescribing wasn't addictive nor harmful.
We were told by the pharmaceutical industry that these medications were really safe. Less than 1% of people will ever get addicted, which is just absolutely not true. And the second thing is they said that this will help to reduce pain and increase function with your patients. Many of those experts on that expert panel were on speakers' bureaus or being paid by pharmaceutical industries, and they didn't disclose that, or we didn't have ethics rules back then that made them have to disclose.
However, fast forward to present day, once addicted, these patients will abuse the prescription limit and get cut off, leading them to jump state lines for a refill at other locations. This has caused local pharmacies in Asheville, such as Harris Teeter, to implement statewide databases to check patients' history so they can prevent them from obtaining more of their prescribed painkiller. While this may seem as an obvious solution to the influx of opioids, Blake Fagan and fellow doctor Don Teeter warned that this practice can hurt those genuinely in need of pain relief and will lead many to look for alternative substances for help, making the problem even more dangerous. A summit held by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina looked to address the ways to combat the mounting crisis in the area, inviting over 200 professionals in both the medical and law enforcement fields, as well as community members. In Western North Carolina, the goal was to initiate a cooperative effort between state and local government to tackle the opioid crisis, as well as the heroin problem, which the summit stated was directly linked. Acknowledgement of this problem in Western North Carolina by the state government is a positive first step. The concern, however, lies in how prescription drug addicts are aligned with heroin users, and while the two may be correlated, tackling the problem head-on with the help of law enforcement will increase incarceration rates among those who are in need of help, not punishment. So, what is law enforcement actually doing?
By using law enforcement as the primary means of dealing with drug addiction, we shift our focus from helping individuals to incarcerating criminals. Law enforcement bodies then use these policies as tools to perpetuate racial discrimination against socially excluded minorities, more specifically, African Americans. Famous author Michelle Alexander calls this phenomenon the new Jim Crow and points out that it is legally acceptable to discriminate against criminals and deny them basic human rights and benefits. So therefore, law enforcement bodies are in turn legally violating basic human rights of minorities in our country, continuing a brutal cycle that can be traced back to the founding of America. So, where does this leave us now? Is all hope lost? Should we give in to the desires of multinational pharmaceutical companies? Should we give up our basic human rights and lay down before the tyranny of law enforcement policies?
The answer is no. According to Ethan Nadelman, quote, "We need to learn how to live with drugs so they can cause the least possible harm and in some cases, the greatest possible benefit." End quote. What is needed is a shift in focus from law enforcement and incarceration to treatment and prevention of those suffering from drug addiction. In a recent study, scientists point out that drug addiction should be classified as a psychiatric disease. They use the argument that some humans are predisposed and show phenotypic vulnerabilities that lead them to become addicted to substances like hard drugs or painkillers.
Small steps in that direction can be seen here in Buncombe County. The Asheville-Buncombe Drug Commission has begun the Page One initiative to take a new front with the battle of drug abuse. They aim to focus more on the victims of drug abuse and to engage these victims with positive reinforcement strategies. To see more initiatives taken at the local level, we travel out to one of our local communities. Here in the Burton Street community, we find the Burton Street Community Peace Gardens, where Dwayne Barden and his hood huggers have taken an overgrown lot that was heaped with garbage and turned it into an inspirational work of art. The Peace Garden provides a safe space for youth in the neighborhood, and it offers opportunities to learn about gardening and environmental responsibility. The more unique aspect of the garden would be its sculpture park, where local artists have taken discarded items and created sculptures that illustrate different stories of social and environmental injustices, helping raise awareness of these issues that are still prevalent in our country today.
A sculpture titled Mayberry Undercover represents the issues of drug addiction in America, with pill bottles littered around the base of an encompassing structure that depicts the dominion of multinational pharmaceutical companies and their unending quest for profit. In the center of the sculpture, there is a poem that illustrates the underlying issues that the proliferation of prescription drugs and illicit drugs alike have had not only on the Burton Street community, but communities like it nationwide. The Peace Gardens represent what local communities can do to overcome socioeconomic issues brought upon by drug abuse. They show that taking the initiative to engage and raise awareness can turn one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Asheville into a peaceful and cohesive community. While it may seem that this is a daunting problem, evidence suggests that with the right allocation of resources and a change in mindset, we can overcome this national crisis. I'm Bowman Boyer.
And I'm Tom Thomas. And before we end tonight, I want to leave you with a message from Mr. Antonio Maria Costa, UN Undersecretary General and Executive Director of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. I suggest an approach that is not ideological or emotional. Drugs are not harmful because they are controlled because they are harmful. The fact that certain unlawful transactions are hard to control doesn't mean that they should be legal. Should humanity accept pedophilia, human trafficking, or arms smuggling out of a naive sense of market inevitability or intractability? Lifting the controls on drugs would reveal a state's impotence to fight organized crime or protect the health of its citizens. Thank you. All right, sweet. I see you laughing. Thank you. Is there any questions? Bueller? Bueller? It's a little dated for you guys. Bueller? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Why did you target just the one county and not look at other counties throughout the country or world?
So our kind of inspiration for this topic, or in this research paper that this video is based on, was a trip that our Lang 120 class took to the Burn Street Community Peace Garden. And that poem, and so our papers, we combined them for this video, was basically centered around that poem in the middle of that sculpture, which basically talked about Asheville specifically. And we tried to research, North Carolina and nationwide to get a perspective on the problem, but for the most part, we centered it around Western North Carolina in Asheville, Buncombe County. Anybody else?
I can feel some questions out there. We're prepared.
If not, we're so good to step down. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, thank you very much.